Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Domestique Hotseat podcast. Now, if you're watching this on video format, you may think, whoa, hang on a second, that's not the usual base. And you're right, it's not. I am taking this show on the road today because my cousin got married last night. So normally this isn't ideal, but we were given the opportunity to interview Bas Tietema from the Unibet Tietema Rockets, and this was the only time that he was available and when opportunity knocks. So I will be a little bit distracted in this interview because I am out in nature. But midway through this interview, a seagull will land a couple of meters away from me. And so, yeah, again, if you're watching on video, I am at one point very worried that a seagull is going to steal some of my tech that I've got around here. But I think the interview speaks for itself. So I really hope that you enjoy this. If you do, please just make sure that you are subscribed because we are hoping to bring more awesome interviews like this in the future. And yeah, if you have some questions for us, chuck them in the comments. That'd be fantastic. Okay, so Bas, got a list of questions for you. Want to pick your brain a little bit about how the Unibet, well, I guess it's the Unibet Rose Rockets now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
How did I guess because it is new, it's not a question that I've got on here, but how did the Rose thing come in? They're not a bike that I guess has been in the peloton recently. How did that come about? You said on social media that your ideals were very closely aligned. Did you want to talk to
that? We have been in talks for a long period of time. We have been riding candid bikes for the last 3 years, and if we were thinking about the switch, we needed to have the right moment and the right time, and so that moment wasn't there until this moment with Rose bikes coming towards us. It's a D2C brand that's directly delivering to the customers. They are really focused in the German, Austrian and Swiss market, and they are pretty big there. They have physical stores all over Germany. They are pretty huge or pretty big in the gravel scene already. They have a really unique approach with the ambassadors and the content they are making. Still family owned, and I think this unique approach is quite similar to us. We are also still owned by our 3 founders as founders of the team. Also have our unique approach with our fans, with our media that we produce. So that was also what you could see when the announcement video was published, that both communities were super excited that this partnership happened. There's a lot of things going on at the moment because they will be producing new bikes as well towards the upcoming season. So really excited to show that when we have the livery ready.
Yeah.
So
personally, as a fan, seeing the Cannondales go, that has been an iconic bike in the tour. Not in the tour, but in the peloton. That color scheme on the Cannondales, I saw it in person when you guys were in China for the tour of Shanghai, and the color scheme that you guys had on that is really cool. So as a fan, I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with and what Rose comes up with for the new bikes. But I think as a fan and as a consumer, having more options that are advertised in the peloton is good for everyone. So I'm really excited to see a new bike brand coming into the World Tour peloton. I think it's really good. I want to go into, though, I guess sort of the inception of this team. You talked about your 3 founders and the values that the team has. So when this was coming into play, I don't know if you guys know, but you have a pretty big social media following. And when this was sort of coming in, I've been putting up a couple of posts about the Tietema Rockets, I guess, to try and build some guerrilla style hype about this, and a lot of people were saying, I really like what they've done from coming from YouTube all the way through to where you guys are now. So you've gone from being a pro cyclist and doing, I guess, what would be described, if people haven't seen them, and I haven't watched too many because the early ones are in, I guess, is it Dutch, the early videos? So
Yeah.
they've got English subtitles, but it's a bit hard to, I guess, like, almost like a how to become a cyclist sort of videos. How did you go from that to being, I guess, the manager of a team? And was that always the intention from the start of that YouTube channel?
No, it wasn't the intention from the early beginnings. From the early beginnings, it was we had the passion for the sport of cycling, but for the upcoming media platforms as well. So where cycling is already being broadcasted on television, you have many shows, you have a lot of more traditional media already broadcasting the sport. We had this different approach on YouTube with what you just mentioned, how to become a cyclist, but also making more entertainment videos during the Tour de France. And first of all, the idea was, okay, let's follow the Tour de France for one summer, and then we will see afterwards what will be the next plans for us, or we start a normal 9 to 5 job. But then we got quite a big fan base, and that created the possibilities to keep producing media and content series. And then I guess it was me who said, okay, if we can have this fan base and people following our journey, what will happen if we will start with a professional cycling team with all those fans following us already? And I think that's the unique approach, because normally you start with a business case and with a blank sheet. Okay, let's have partners on board, let's have proper cyclists in the team. But this whole idea started with, okay, let's create a huge fan base and then really tell the story right. And this is actually what happened. 3 guys starting at the lowest level continental cycling, trying to reach the Tour de France. But yeah, this whole approach from the media side, I guess that's pretty unique. And yeah, still nowadays it has the priority within the organization still nowadays, to focus on that.
Yeah, well, there's nothing like it, I guess, and we'll talk to that. I guess we might as well do that now. I mean, most of the cycling teams that you see in the peloton, they are established cycling teams. They've been bought by, like, for example, Visma or Q36.5 being the old Quebecer team. So what's it like logistically to try and start a team from the ground up, as opposed to, I guess, coming on, picking up someone else's license?
I guess this wouldn't be this wasn't possible if we took over a license and a culture of another team. So I think the whole reason that we can start a team from this way of thinking is because we are starting from a blank sheet. And because we are starting with a blank sheet, it gives us the opportunity to create our own culture. And I think that's what you see nowadays, that because we have this culture, we are now also creating this sportive team next to that. And of course, results and performances are super important, but that's the reason why we can still keep that identity and also the values of media in the team. Well, I think when you are taking over a license of a really established team, then it's really hard to change culture and traditions. And I think that takes way more time than building up something from scratch.
So I guess with that, starting from the ground up, what are the initial conversations with the riders like? That must have been a challenging thing to begin. Did you have your network, and did you lean on the network from the YouTube videos and the fan base that you developed there? I mean, a lot of the interviews that I've got through this are through my social media following, and I've reached out directly to the riders. Is that how you guys started developing? How do you say, hey, we're starting a brand new cycling team with no, I guess, established base, and we would like you to come on?
Yeah, especially the first year, there was literally nothing except an idea and a PowerPoint. So we had the reach, of course. We were known already within the Benelux with our YouTube channel. But then, if you start reaching out towards riders and you say, "Okay, we are starting a team on continental level," then there are quite some doubts, right or wrong. I think now you could say it was a pretty good idea, but at that moment, yeah. And I think that's also in cycling, you have so many projects, and it's really hard to see the potential, yes or no, because also for cyclists, I can understand their career isn't that long. So you want to make the right steps within your career. And this is quite a tricky one, I could say. Yeah, it's a YouTube channel that thinks that they can start a cycling team and do well. So yeah, looking back, there are still a lot of riders that are still riding within the team today from the first year, with Thomas Kopecky, Hartijs de Vries, Joram. So many of them, and I think looking back, it's like was a really good match. But I can understand, and it was at those first conversations quite challenging to get them on board.
Cycling is conservative, I would say. I think it's fair to say that cycling is a very conservative sport. How was it those first couple of races? Did you find when you started in 2023 you were taken seriously by other teams? Was there sort of a almost the new kid on the block, these YouTubers coming along and trying to do a cycling team? Was there friction there in regards to that in the peloton, in the Conti scene?
Yeah. We had a lot of positive comments, but yeah, a lot of people doubting our journey. What I can understand from their point of view. And then, yeah, especially at the first year, it felt like we needed to convince people that we were actually capable of performing. Well, nowadays, you see that people know that we can perform, and then our media is an USP that we have. But back in the days, it really felt that, oh, this YouTube team. Now I feel really comfortable because I know, okay, that's the asset that we have. But back then, it really felt like, oh, we need to prove and show the world that we are actually capable of performing. Well, I knew that we had the riders and we were doing super well. But yeah, this was it was actually the feeling that we had, that we really needed to convince people. Well, we were just doing our best. So maybe it wasn't even necessary, but yeah, we felt it that way.
Yeah. And I mean, the team's rise, when you're talking about that first year was 2023. So we are only talking 2 years. So 2023, you're a Conti team. 2024, you move up to a pro level team. And now we're essentially, you're in the conversation for a Tour de France debut in 2026, fingers crossed. That kind of rise from a YouTube channel in 2022 to potentially Tour de France in 2024, 2026, that's meteoric. How do you, or what do you attribute the success to there? Because, I mean, we've got Tudor, we've got Q36.5. They haven't achieved that, and they're huge teams.
Yeah, it's a really steep, it's really steep climb that we are having as a team. It's challenging because we need to grow super fast, and I think the reasons is, first of all, still relying on our foundation of storytelling. I think that's key. That makes us unique within the world of professional cycling. I think also a key factor is the partners that we are having.
Mm.
Already from the first year, we were a continental team, but we had really high quality partners that are still on board nowadays with Skoda. We had Shimano on board. We had Cannondale's. Many partners that a continental team would dream about. I think
Yeah.
they are a key asset. And then I think the third aspect that's been crucial is surrounding us by good people that actually know how to build a proper cycling team. I
Yeah.
think we have knowledge and we have a good idea about professional cycling and media, but to get it to this level and even beyond, we need to have people on board that are actually capable and known for doing that. So that's the case for riders, and you can see it with signings that we did last year, but this year as well. But also people within the staff that are or that have the management experience of leading a professional organization on the highest level. And I think those are the keys of bringing this to or every year to a new level.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, recently you've announced a pretty big signing in regards to Wout Poels. You also had a fantastic short in regards to Jannis Peter coming on board, the German cyclist. That was classic. Well done. But I guess with every new signing that you bring on, and as you go up the ranks, you know, there are only 30 people that you can have on a UCI team. How, as a team that has really structured itself around being that unit that, like you said, with Rose, you're a tight fit because you're essentially a family thing. You must be really close to these riders, but you must be having some conversations with riders as you quickly move up the levels. Essentially, some of those 2023 guys, you might be having to move on, I guess. How do you have those conversations as it's such a tight knit unit?
Yeah, I think we are really close to all the riders. Also, the downside of growing super fast is that you also have to say goodbye to some of
Mm.
these riders. So at every year of every end of the year, you also have riders that are maybe even improving, but maybe not fast enough for achieving our goals. It's always difficult at the end of the year. But I think it's really important, especially for us as a team with this identity and background, to have a lot of conversations with riders joining us, especially with, like, for example, Dylan Groenewegen and Wout Poels. We have spoken quite a lot about their role. We are not just a team to just sit down, have a paycheck, and you are actually part of a big dream and journey of this team. With they're a crucial role for them as well. So it's not
Mm.
just an agent who calls and that we are saying, yes, must be his salary, and then we have a rider on board. It's actual crucial to speak to riders quite a lot, and to make them understand of our approach of running this team. And I think so far that went really well. But yeah, every year it takes a lot of time and patience to find that right match.
So with Wout, um, obviously a fantastic signing. He's got proven chops. I've actually spoken to Wout already for this podcast, and he was quite happy from the sounds of it at Astana. He liked the challenge of going to some of those smaller races. I can see how he fits in, but also it's a 1 year contract. Wout is getting older. That's the elephant in the room. Is he being brought on to mentor people like Giannis, or is he being brought on with the goal of achieving success at something like the Tour de France next year?
I think it will be both. I think first of all, Wout only wanted to continue his career if he was 110% in. So he's not settled for less.
Mm.
So he's also aware that the level has been growing within the peloton. He's getting older. Um, so we are also planning to make a calendar that really suits him, that he is still capable of winning races. He did last year with the Tour of Turkey. I think there, if he is competing in races with our team, we have a quite young and yeah, you can say more inexperienced squad with a lot of potential. And I think there he can fit in really well. Um, but he will still be the guy who can actually win races. He will be one of our better climbers. So which race that actually or that will be, I don't know yet, but I believe that he can still win races on the highest level, and be super valuable for other riders within the team. And that's
Yeah.
something you see already, that with Dylan coming in, with Wout coming in, that those younger riders are really asking questions or start reaching out to get to know more info about uh, yeah, the highest level of racing.
Yeah, I guess the Dylan Groenewegen one, that signing took me by surprise. As an Australian default, I have to like Jaco Alula. And you guys, that was a shock to see him going from a team like Jaco to a team like Unibet. How did you pull that off? What was the conversation like?
Yeah, I think it was quite a shock for many. I
Mm,
think um, of course, riders going for World Tour, going to a pro Conti team are often seen as a step back. What I can understand from a more conservative perspective, but when I look nowadays, I think a lot of pro teams are actually quite competitive against World Tour teams as well. And also, if you can get those wildcard invites, you can race a lot of World Tour races as well, almost all of them, especially for a sprinter like Dylan. Yeah, many of the World Tour races he don't really care about because he cannot perform in them.
mm,
So he's really keen on specific World Tour races. But I think he is also at the end of his career. He won, I guess, 6 Tour de France states
yeah.
wins. Um, so also for him, it was like, okay, what do I want to leave behind to this sport? And I think that's for him legacy and tell a story, and to be part of our project, being there the captain who strives to get that first Tour de France stage win. I think that's something that's not uh, that's like the yeah, you are the front man of our team. And I think that's super interesting for him. It's maybe not the biggest paycheck. It's maybe not the biggest, to be certain of the biggest races, but
Mm.
to be, to have that feeling that you are the guy who needs to make this project a success. I think that's super interesting for him. And from our side, I think we are really capable of showing that story really well, as we did with his announcement video. Um, so yeah, I really see the potential, but I can understand from a more conservative cycling perspective that a step from a known World Tour team to our team is a bit unexpected. But I think it's, in the end, I think people will say it's a really well move.
So let's talk about the Tour de France. If hypothetically you were to get the wild card entry, the success is winning a stage win, correct? That would be what you. I mean, it's a bit of a mute question because everyone is going to the Tour de France intending to get a stage win. But I guess the question is, the 2025 Tour de France was dominated by Visma, Trek, and UAE, with Pogacar seeming to go for every single opportunity to win a stage that he had. That leaves the, I guess, smaller big teams fighting for any stage win that they can get. Is there in the Tour de France a place for smaller teams? Do you guys have a fighting chance in the modern peloton at the Tour de France?
Fair question. I think this is a question that you can ask many teams, even a lot of World Tour teams, as UAE, Red Bull, or like UAE, Visma, and Trek won a lot of those races. Also, Alpecin last year. I think it's important to focus on the things you are good at, and I think for us, I think we are pretty good in classic and sprint racing. And this year we were missing or lacking a proper sprinter that could finish it off. But in lead outs and in classic racing, I think there is our strength. So that means that if we are able to receive a wildcard for the Tour de France, that we also need to be super realistic. Okay, what can we achieve over there and which stages are we really aiming for? Because we know we don't have a GC rider that is capable of doing top 10 in the Tour de France. But I think with our classic riders like Lucas Kubis, how he performed this year, some signings we did, for example, Niklas Larsen, who became yesterday world champion in the team pursuit and was third on the European time trial. In combination with Dylan, I think we have a really strong lead out. And of course, Dylan's last year Tour de France wasn't his best.
Yep.
But I think if we can focus on that, we have a really opportunity to perform and to be competitive for stage wins. And then if we will win eventually, would be a huge, would be huge. But I think with focusing on where you're good at instead of having all disciplines within a team, I think that's crucial to reach that success.
Yeah. So the idea going to a potential or hypothetical 2026 would be to build a team around Dylan Groenewegen for the Tour de France. Is that the goal or the idea there? Is that how you're conceptualizing a stage win?
Yeah, but that still means that you have some punchy stages as well.
Yeah.
I saw, like, for example, Montmartre stage, with Lucas and other riders. That doesn't exclude others. And for example, the time trial with someone like Niklas, of course, maybe you have other opportunities as well. But I think a fair shot with Dylan, 6-time stage winner in Tour de France, I think that gives us a real opportunity of getting close to good results within Tour de France.
And with Dylan, I think it's easy to look at his 2020, his last Tour de France and criticize it. But at the same time, Jayco didn't prioritize him as a rider. They came with a very mixed team to that tour. So, yeah, I guess with a good lead out train and a focus, I mean, he's demonstrated, like you said, 6 times Tour de France winner. That's the experience to do it. Let's go back to the team. So your team isn't just sort of a lot of the other teams, you know, Visma, Lisa Bike, Intermarché, Wanty, UAE, XRG now. It's essentially whatever sponsor can come on gets the naming rights. You guys have gone with Rockets, and that is the brand. So are you trying to build a cycling team that feels more like a football club? And how does that work in the current cycling business model?
Yeah, there is a whole idea about the Rockets. Of this year, it was called Unibet Tietema Rockets. It was a transition from Tour Tietema, what was the YouTube channel where everything started, with the transition towards the Rockets. That's also why my name was a placeholder. And now with Rose stepping in, it will be Unibet Rose Rockets. But Rose, or like the Rockets part, that will be there. That's like fixed. And that also, if you look at our jersey and our logo that we have on the jersey, that's the Rockets logo that we have. And I think this is also something that if you start from scratch, you have the opportunity to create the team you would like to have. And I think with our media and our YouTube channel, people really saw the potential of, and we also explain them the reasoning behind and the value of creating this. Maybe on short term, you would like to have your colors of your brand or your sponsor on the jersey. But we really explained, okay, maybe in the long term, we will have maybe way more fans. So even on short term, it seems like you create more value. In the long end, if we are the most followable team within the peloton, or we have the biggest fan base in the whole peloton, then it's way more valuable than having every year another jersey or having another name. So yeah, we started this, and I think it's going super well. And now also with Rose stepping in, like the name is not changing, the colors will not change, and I think that's pretty unique. And like personally, I hope other teams will follow in the end. They all have some kind of nicknames already, with the Wolf Pack, with Band of Brothers, with Yellow Bee. But it would be super nice if in the future you have more, really team names that are going or being there forever.
Yeah, and I guess my question is, how wedded are you to it? Let's say hypothetically in 2027, you guys are really strapped for cash and you're looking for a new sponsor, and a sponsor comes on and they say, we're happy to come on, but we want that spot instead of the Rockets. So we want to be Unibet, Tietema. I think there's a big Dutch chain that I had on here, but I've forgotten what it is. But let's say hypothetically, like Lidl. So is that a no? We are sticking to the Rockets, and if it is Rockets or bust, we're going bust to hold the Rockets name.
Yeah, I think that's not an option. And if someone reaches out to us, then I think they also understand what makes us valuable, and maybe then they should also contact someone else. And I think that's the like, if you really believe in this approach that we are having with setting up a more club feeling, having this more media approach, then I also hope that brands and people will see the importance of that and the value of that. And it would be super weird if we start doing that. It would be the same if people say like, okay, would you stop making YouTube videos then and invest that in riders, for example? That's, for me, it's not even optional, because that's how sport and entertainment should be. So the whole idea of how we have set up this team is from a fan perspective. Like, if I would start a cycling team, or if I would support a cycling team, how do I want that team to be managed? And I think that is what we are actually trying to create ourselves.
I guess I wanted to pick your brain on that unorthodox approach, because unlike football, with cycling, you don't have a home stadium. When it comes to wearing kit, I know in Australia, a lot of people wear football team jerseys out in public. These are things that you don't necessarily do with Lycra. I'm not putting Lycra on and going to the local pub to sit down and have a few beers with friends. So I guess, what strategies are you using to make the fans feel a part? Obviously, you've got the social media aspect of it, but how else do you build this culture around the team?
No. First of all, it's really hard to change the whole business model of professional cycling, and we will not be able to do that alone. So I hope that we can change it, even if it's a few percent. And I think the whole idea about the media side is not that we are getting our whole income because of the YouTube or streams, but I think the important, or we can generate visibility and reach throughout the year by our own production, and we are not fully dependent on racing and results to create that own reach. And I think that's the indirect value of that whole media approach is that you can guarantee partners and sponsors visibility with your own channels. And of course, we want to perform, and external media is super valuable, but we can generate that ourselves. Then because of that fan base, we also try to have the merchandise side and the e-commerce that's go along. That's something that I think we do really well. And as you mentioned, yeah, lycra and cycling jerseys are not, it's not comparable with football shirts, for example. But I think in terms of cycling, we are doing well, and we also try to create more fancy and fashionable items, like we did in Paris-Roubaix. We designed purple jackets, and we were offering people bus trips from their hometown towards the Roubaix Velodrome. And we had hundreds of people wearing this purple jacket, standing there and shouting to our riders and supporting them at the Velodrome in those jackets. And that's super cool. And if you can do that step by step, as we did with the Amstel Gold Race, Paris-Roubaix, and maybe we can do it within the near future in the Tour de France, I think that are small steps towards creating that stadium within professional cycling. As last year at the Amstel Gold Race, we host a corner at one of the climbs of the Amstel Gold Race course, and we had there thousands of people coming together to root for our riders. And I think that are quite unique things for cycling teams, as normally hospitality is really well known, but events for fans, I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Amstel Gold corner, but that is normally something that's reserved to nations, isn't it? Like there's the Dutch corner and the French corner. So I really like that idea. I think that's fantastic. And with that, in regards to, I did see that you've got sort of a product line online that people can purchase. Is the idea, I guess, to start developing that merch like the purple jackets and start selling that as a way to be a part of the team and identify as the team?
Sure. Yeah, it would be really cool if we are riding the biggest races and that you have actually fans that are wearing your team jersey or other merchandise. I think that's the end game. It would be super nice if you have, and not only for us, but for cycling as a whole. If you have people there with different jerseys, I think that would be super nice. And I think that would be a huge step for professional cycling.
I think in regards to professional cycling, like I said before, it is very conservative. There is very much this idea that you don't wear team jerseys. Can I get on the record, Bas Tietema, saying that you want people to be wearing the Unibet cycling team kit?
Yes and no, because I also believe, like in other sports, that you can have that team jersey, but that you can also have a more fashionable item that still relates to the team jersey, but is a bit more fashionable than the team jersey.
All right, so let's move on to, I'd like to pick your brain about the state of professional cycling. How are you feeling about, I guess, the situation? Can I get a pulse check from you on professional cycling at the moment? I guess more in the men's side of things, considering the position that Unibet Tietema Rockets is in.
I think on one hand, I think the sport, and then I'm specifically talking about teams in general. I think they are doing super well with brands coming in like Red Bull, Decathlon, Lidl. I think that's pretty. That are huge steps that those brands are stepping into the sport. Also, are now the owners of teams. I think they are bringing the sport a lot. But then on the other hand, I think also a lot of teams are really suffering and struggling to keep up with those with those steps. And I think that's a mix. I think that's a mix at this moment, that on one hand you have those teams getting better and better, but on the other hand also teams that are having a hard time to just continue. So yeah, maybe that's also life, that sometimes the economic times are better than others. So it's really interesting to see which way it goes, and you see so many initiatives from UCI, but also other organizations to look at different models. Yeah, it's really hard to say which direction it will go, and I think also for us, it's like we are focusing on our growth and to change the way of approaching the sport a bit different. But it's really hard to have or to at least change the whole dynamics of the ecosystem. So if we can only do a little bit, I think then I'm already pretty happy. And you can we are just starting by ourselves, by doing it a slightly bit different.
Is getting a World Tour contract or a World Tour license, is that a double-edged sword? You spoke earlier about the fact that because you're a pro level team, you can do World Tour races, but you can also do these pro level races where you have a better chance of winning. They're not dominated by Tadej Pogacar, and when it's not Tadej Pogacar, it's Del Toro, and when it's not Del Toro, it's Evenepoel or something. Is there almost like you're shooting yourself in the foot by getting into the World Tour because it strangles your opportunities for those wins?
I think first of all, our biggest goal as a team and organization is to have the biggest fan base. I think
Yep.
that are way more our goals than World Tour or Pro Tour. I think that's more an outcome. If we have a team that perform well over 3 years, then the result is that you promote to the World Tour ranks. And for me personally, like the goals are way more, okay, how can we make Rockets the biggest and the most interesting brand within professional cycling? How can we attract more and more people towards our videos we make or get involved in our team? And of course, it would be nice if in a few years we ride all the big races, but I see that more as an outcome of doing things well than a specific objective.
If you were to peel back, I guess, sort of one uncomfortable truth within cycling, something that you found and you thought, oh, I kind of want that to change, what would it be?
I think this insane amount of races that a calendar of pro cycling has. I think sometimes it makes no sense at all that you have. It's the same like playing Champions League football, the European Championships and the World Championships at the same day, and then try to explain people that this is possible. And this is at some weekends of the year. This is actually the case within professional cycling, that you have 2 or 3 World Tour races at the same moment, and then also a Grand Tour going on, and that you have to explain, this is this is a big race, but then this is also a big race, and then you have still 5.1s and point pro races. This is, and I understand the value of, and I appreciate all organizers that organize races, but it's so hard to explain the whole ranking races and to make that more as a whole and a more explainable calendar. I think that would be really nice for everyone.
Fair enough. In regards to being a former rider that is now a manager of a team, how did you use your insight? I guess that understanding, like, for example, being in the peloton on the other side, knowing the load, how has that informed the way that you've gone around running the team itself?
I think what I learned is that if you have been a professional rider, that doesn't make you automatically a really good team manager directly. And I think this is coming back to surround yourself by good people. Of course, Josse, Devin, and myself, we are the owners of the team, but we need people around us that can actually manage high professional athletes as well. And I think that's what I learned. Like, I've been a lot in teams where the rider or like a former rider starts a professional teams and needs to manage a whole cycling team. I think, especially now for us as an organization with around 100 people on board, you need to have a quite unique skill set to manage that. And that's not something you specifically learn as a rider or uh, as a YouTuber. So I learned that you need to surround yourself with good people instead of uh, placing yourself in the most important position within the team.
With One Cycling, when it came up, were you interested? You know, it sort of talks about changing the revenue structure of cycling, which I think everyone can agree is something that does need to change. The revenue structure in cycling at the moment, I think, is broken. How do you feel about One Cycling? The UCI's shut it down essentially, but is that something that you would like to see or something along those lines? Do you agree that it needs to have a shake up?
I haven't seen in depth. I of course seen the news articles but I haven't seen in depth, like really in depth, the actually changes and the way of changing the sport. Um, yeah, first of all, I think it would be weird for us as an innovative team to say, okay, we are against change.
Mm,
But I think it's really hard because the sport it has been this way for a long period of time, with all the stakeholders involved, and um, it's really difficult to actually change it while also being so dependent on other stakeholders. But so yeah, it's hard because if now the whole project is to change it in a whole, and I think this is also what I just explained. Like, we are really trying to do like the thing, like the rockets.
mm,
You can just change it. You don't need like directly a whole. Then it doesn't need to be directly super political, a full change. But like small changes can in the end change quite a lot. And you just mentioned, for example, merchandise.
yep.
Like all these initiatives are all about broadcasting rights, and I
Mm.
think you can say it's maybe fair, it's maybe better for the sport, but like, yeah, the whole business model has evolved this way, and yeah, why will maybe other stakeholders give up on that? But for example, merchandise, if all teams come together and reach out to brands and do merchandising together, you can actually start working together tomorrow. But I think that's the balance between, if you want to change it and make it directly super huge as a whole project, it also makes it really difficult to make it to actually start. Well, if you just start working together, but yeah, on lower, or like on let's say small things, then you can actually kick off and start working together. So
This this sounds like it's a frustration for you. Is this something that you've tried to push with teams and there's been pushback in regards to that idea of coming together on that? Like, have you found that teams aren't willing to work with you to an extent, or?
I think also, to be true, like, we are existing 3 years, and
Yeah.
but I do think that there is a lot of focus on performance side. So mostly yeah, those talks are a lot about performance and on sportive aspects, especially when teams come together. But I think there are a lot of opportunities if teams just start working together on these ideas that can be sharing knowledge. But now it's a bit like in the race, everyone is fighting for their own results. Well, I think it would be super nice to um, that every team is sharing, that you have like, that you are sharing the expertise to make everything better and to make it better as a whole. And even if that's not directly like a whole project, like one cycling was, for example, but on maybe I prefer to just start doing it and then maybe in the end showcase that that's the best way to go, instead of talking about that's the best way to go and then it actually never happened.
Yeah, I guess in the same way that you have created this Rockets brand, and if it works, other teams will want a slice of that pie, I guess.
We would never,
With
if we
sorry,
just
go.
if we made a whole business plan with, oh, we start a YouTube channel and then we do this rock, then nobody would give us a penny for that. But then now we are actually doing it, and then people start believing, oh, this has potential, or this is super interesting, or we should copy maybe things that they are doing. So
Yeah.
I prefer then just showcase, or instead of arguing what's not right or what's wrong.
With the financial model of cycling, let's talk a big change, because you sort of suggested that, I guess, micro changes are the way that cycling can shift. But in Australia, we have a salary cap in all of our sports. It's something that doesn't seem to be replicated globally. I know in European football, it doesn't exist. In American sports, it doesn't exist. But in Australia, every team has a maximum amount of money that they can spend. And that has, in our sport, kept every team on a relatively level playing field. If your team is not winning, you're still not going to have a lot of money, but it does level things out. Does cycling need something like that?
I don't
Tadej
know.
Pogacar, for example, I think he's paid $15 million a year. I don't think you guys can afford.
I think every sport have an interest of a competitive field where it's not known upfront who is going to win. I think that's you want to have like excitement. I think that's also but the way how you can do it, for example, in America, you have that first pick and the draft system. That's also a way to create, for example, a more fairness or equal level playing field. Because if you are able to pick, for example, the best under 23 rider, that gives you maybe more opportunity the next year. Salary cap is the salary cap is maybe another way of making it more equal, or but then you also get, like, especially at this moment, you have teams who are really really far above the rest, and you have teams who are really so what is normal. But I'm not informed enough in what's the best model for the sport to make it more equal, but that every sport has an interest of making it competitive, and that you have a team right now that wins a lot. I think that's, in the long term, not in favor for. It's not the fault in this case of the bigger teams, because they are doing things right and they win a lot. But for the sport in general, you don't want that it becomes boring. And it's a thin balance, because on one hand, you want to have heroes and you want to have characters. Therefore, you need to have riders who win more often than others. But then the moment when it starts to get boring, I think then that's too far. So it's a thin line.
Yeah. And in regards to, like, we're talking UAE essentially here. I think if every team could, they would have a Tadej Pogacar and Isaac Del Toro. The depth of that team is insane. Do you think cycling stands a risk of becoming what you're talking about? Do you think it stands a risk of becoming boring if that team is allowed to continue on the trajectory that it is continuing on? Or do you think, like we've seen with Ayuso this year, you get guys like that and eventually they're going to want to be a team leader. Like, I guess, yes, the question is, do you think these teams will naturally break up as egos play a part, or do you think UAE is able to balance with the amount of races on the calendar the desire for people like Del Toro to have the chance to shine, while Pogacar is obviously the main man in that team?
Therefore, don't to go really in depth. Like, I don't know that team well enough, but in more general, I think it's really hard if you're on top of the sport to continue that for a longer period of time. I think there are a few. You can see it in any sport. Like, for example, Ferrari has dominated Formula One. Is really struggling the last year. It's
Yeah.
not that long ago that Team Sky was winning every Tour de France and was dominating every race, and this whole Sky train was a thing. Then right now they are struggling. They are not on that level anymore. In football, you have a lot of those examples as well. So yeah, I think they are dominating this year. They are doing super good. They win a lot of races. But in the end, I don't know what's the reason behind, but it's so hard in sports when everyone is chasing you to keep up. And even if you have like people get older, change in management, or like there are so many reasons that things can change, and there's always a new like us. There is always a new kid on the block. Also for us, there will be sooner or later someone else who's doing it better. Uh, so I think that's also the beauty and the nature of sport, that everyone wants to get better, and there will always be another team that performs well. So I think the way of riding this year of UAE has been insane. I think they smashed all records, but I still believe that in sports there will always be a new rider or someone else coming up. But yeah, you never know when that moment will be.
Yeah. And it is interesting because talking, like, having a social media presence and talking about it on social media, I get a lot of feedback from people, and some people do find that cycling is becoming boring with the domination of UAE, and then other people absolutely froth over it and think that watching Tadej Pogacar go from 100 Ks out is just the height of entertainment. I guess it is. I don't know. Some people seem to really rate it. With the team, though, where do you guys go from here? Obviously, in 2026, the goal is to get this wildcard entry and a stage win in the Tour de France. Are there intentions on opening a women's team? Do you have intentions on a devo team?
The honest answer is that with the growth that we are having so far already, managing this team towards where it is right now has been quite demanding already. But yeah, I think the women's cycling in general has a huge potential, but also how the development of riders, I think, has been quite beneficial over the last years, and especially the way also how we are picking up riders. If you can do that on a even better way with a development team, I think the value is there. But for now, I think we need first to succeed this before we are making it wider with different teams. Because if you start something new, you need to be able to give that the full focus and commitment as well, and not as we are just starting another team to start it then. So I think the honest answer is, at this moment we are 24/7 24/7 a day working on making this work, and it's already pretty demanding. So when the moment is there, then I think it's up to us to look for potential projects or within the sport or outside. But that there is a huge potential within women's cycling and the sport and how it's been developing. That's something for sure.
One thing that frustrates me in regards to pro cycling, and the question comes up because I think women's cycling is better at this than men's cycling. I feel like in men's cycling there is a lack of personality to teams. As we're sort of coming to the end of the interview, how are you guys going? It seems that the intention is to deliver that, and I really like the fact that you guys are shaking that up. How do you see, where do you see opportunities to push more personality into professional cycling?
We are not directly making everyone like a superstar. That's like, you also, personality is also that someone just really needs to have. And I think you have characters within the sport. I still remember Taylor Finney, for example, or you had Lauren Stendam in Holland. You had or also Armstrong. He was a character. Jan
Yep.
Uri. But yeah. Um, yeah, what
I guess
makes me...
from our side, as a viewer, all the responses are super media trained, and you get a really cultivated image. You know, Remco Evenepoel at the end of a stage says that he's angry about the fact that something didn't go his way, and it's a huge story because most cyclists just don't give
Yeah,
access. Is
yeah.
there the intention to make the Rockets different in that way? And how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think um, maybe it also has to do with fear to say something
Mm,
wrong instead of saying something unforgettable. Um, and I hope, but yeah, I hope that people feel comfortable enough to give a transparent and honest and vulnerable answer on questions, or tell an honest story. Like, even for us, like, within our team, not everything is going right. We try to do the best as possible, but yeah, we are not perfect. We are struggling sometimes as well to make it work with a program, to make it work operational, to have the right people on board, because yeah, you need a lot of people, but you want to deliver quality as well. Um, yeah, we are by far not perfect. And of course we are doing everything we can to make it work, and to do as best as we can. Uh, and I hope the same goes for riders, that if they are in a position to tell their story, that that it's not like just a general answer of, okay, yeah, I did my work, or like, but that it's a more honest
yeah.
story about how they really feel, or that if yeah. And I think that's also like, you don't have to uh, hurt someone personally, for example, but you can also tell a honest story uh, without doing that.
Yeah. I'd just like Vingegaard at the end of a stage where Pogacar beats him by a minute. I'd like him to just say, he's pissing me off. Like, I would like some honesty in cycling. But
Yeah, but also some internal fights. For example, there is not like everyone is quite friendly to each other. Well, you can still be super friendly, but within the race, it's quite nice for the sport in general if you have rivalries or uh, things going on.
that's why I like Evenepoel so much. He is polarizing, but I like the fact that I feel like he's bringing that to the sport to an extent. There is an aggression to the way that he rides, but also to his interviews, and he really wears his heart on his sleeve. I would like to see more of that in the pro peloton. I would like to see at the end of a race a rider that is frustrated, which you do get with Remco, whether
Yeah.
people think it's positive or not. With these interviews, what we normally do, because we're interviewing riders, is as our last question, we sort of ask for some advice for someone trying to break in. But I guess with you, what I'd like is what is the biggest lesson that you have learned, or the thing that surprised you the most about trying to establish a team in the World Tour?
Oh, can you repeat that once again?
Yeah, sure. So what I guess is the biggest lesson that
The
you have
biggest lesson.
taken from your experience with the Rockets?
I think the biggest lesson for me is to stay true at our base, like how we started. Like there are so many people giving opinions, or even when people are getting on board in our team, everyone has their own opinion about, okay, this is how cycling should be done, or this is how a cycling team should be run. And especially when you are start doing things for the first time, to be really strict on your own culture. And of course you need to be open for all the input, but I think the only way how we could make it this far is the way how we did it. Otherwise we were just an average cycling team. So I think to stay true at our at our values of 3 guys with a dream of showing the beauty of the sport and doing exactly the same, and try to do their best. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned
Yeah.
in the
Well,
last 5 years.
Mr. Tietema, that brings us to a close. So I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on. Sorry if I've looked a bit distracted. There was literally a seagull standing right next to me on the table. And there are, I don't know if you can see, but there's a couple of, we call them bush turkeys over there, and they've been getting closer and closer. So yeah, I really appreciate your time. I think it's been awesome to have a chat to someone on the other side to give us a bit of a different perspective than the riders. So thank you so much, and all the best with the Tour de France wildcard. I know so many people are really hoping that you guys do get that, just because there is so much support for what you guys are doing as a team.
Thank you. And let's hope that I can see those seagulls once when I'm going to the Tour Down Under in the
Yeah,
future.
well, mate, we would love to see you down there. It's a hell of a good time if you do come.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
buy
you.
you a
Thank
beer.
you for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Or
Yeah, for
night
you as
for you
well. Have
guys. Yeah.
maybe some more hours of sleep.
Yeah, more sleep would be good. Thank you very much. See you.
Bye bye.
All right, so guys, that was Bas. What an awesome journey the Tietema Rockets are on. Unibet Rose Rockets now, I guess. It's just awesome to see a cycling team that is doing it different. And I know personally, I can really get behind what they're doing at that team. So, yeah, hopefully this peeled back some of the mystique around the team. And, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you very much. If you did, again, a reminder to subscribe and chuck this a like because it helps. Cheers.